Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Coming up today, we're going to be talking about Dr. Fauci's testimony yesterday. Fauci was in front of Congress again, and I'm not sure what I should be more frustrated about. Fauci's testimony or Marjorie Taylor Greene. She refused to call him doctor yesterday during Mr. Fauci during her testimony. It really kind of got off the rails. So more on that. That's a big story. And I'm really curious to know, and this is a question that I asked already this morning on Facebook, for those of you who follow me on Facebook, if you had it to do over again, would you get the COVID vaccination? If you had it to do over again, would you get the COVID vaccination? So I welcome your thoughts on that. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, feel free to share your comment. I asked that question this morning. We'll talk about it, open up the phone lines on the air over the course of the program this morning. So that got a little bit. We also had, of course, Hunter Biden beginning. He's in court. So the jury has been selected in Hunter Biden's case. That's a big story this morning. Also, I was really struck by this piece. This is from Fox News. Some former Never Trump voters now say, yeah, they're backing Trump. They're going to vote for Trump as a result of his conviction that they saw this week. So those, and of course in South Dakota, for those of you, if you're in South Dakota, today is primary day. Want to remind you the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Local time. So polls will be open in South Dakota today. So I'm going to get my wits together here. Oh, also we'll talk about, I know it's a big job getting my wits together. It's, I asked this question on social media, on Facebook. Other than politics, what are things that really grind your gears? I mean, what are things that upset you? And I was, a lot of people were talking about inflation. Inflation for a lot of folks is really setting them off. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I mentioned it in more detail, and we'll get you your phone calls coming up throughout the course of the program today. So that's all coming up on today's Greg Belfrage Show. Thanks for being here.
Quarter-mile east of the James River on Sunday.
All right, I'm going to get ready for the big broadcast.
A Sioux Falls teenager is hospitalized after being shot yesterday.
This is the big open, I call it. We do the big open when we first start. So
3 in the morning. When the boy arrived, several people were sitting in the car. One person emerged.
years ago when I first started doing this, I've been doing it for decades now. But when I first started doing it, and especially at the beginning of the program, I'd get pretty wound up. You know, you get a certain amount when you're an air personality before you go on the air. You get a certain amount of adrenaline that's going, you know. And so I would do the big open, and I would, there's a window right over here. You can't see it. But if you were looking this direction, there's a big studio window right there. And I would have people standing outside the window as I would get underway. Seriously, I mean, like there'd be like 3 or 4 sometimes people standing there watching me. And now it's like, yeah, that's Belfrage again. All right, here we go, my friends, getting close.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk.
Oh, I need to grab a temp.
Weather brought to you by Mitchell Roofing, here now and for over 20 years to ensure your roof stands strong.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms in our forecast. Most of those thunderstorms will occur east of
All right, here we go.
78 and a west wind at 15 to 25. For tonight, evening showers rolling east, our overnight low 53, and then for tomorrow, windy weather, high around 80. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstick.
I was looking to see how those,
Two Empires
I
interesting news.
moved those Kello signs so you could see them a little more clearly on the,
All night. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Here we go.
The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
Tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
The Biden administration has a fatal attraction to nutty ideas.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
I love the show.
I don't hate going to work anymore.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win.
Good morning, my friends. The marketplace of ideas is open. It's great to have you along. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show, and a big welcome to those who are watching on YouTube this morning. We had Dr. Anthony Fauci back in front of Congress yesterday. He was testifying before the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic yesterday, and he said he was pressed on, well, before we get to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she is headlining a lot of the stories on this yesterday, the real meat of this testimony yesterday occurred when Dr. Fauci was asked about the COVID vaccine didn't stop transmission of the virus. So he was asked by the chair of this subcommittee, Brad Wenstrup, said, did the COVID vaccine stop transmission of the virus? And Fauci's answer, and my head starts to throb. I don't know about every time I listen to him, seriously, the guy's, I've never seen anybody who could talk so much and say so little. You know what I mean? So he's well, it's a complicated issue, that the first iteration of the vaccines did have an effect, not 100%, not a high effect, but they did prevent infection and transmission, he said. And then he goes on to, it's important to point out something we did not know early on that became evident as the months went by, talking about how long the vaccines would last, the durability of protection. In other words, how long it would last against infection and so on. So he goes on and on. We didn't know that. And to be fair, he's correct about that. There were things there that we did not know at the beginning. I think he and others were busy scaring the absolute hell out of everybody when it came to COVID-19. So he said, we didn't know that in the beginning, but it did prevent infection, he said, and transmission as well. But it didn't last. Didn't last. In other words, he said it wasn't a durable effect. In other words, didn't last. That's why you had to get another vaccine. And another, and another. What are they up to now? And I think that's going to lead us into our conversation. One of our conversations today is, if you had it to do over again, knowing what you know now, would you get the vaccine? Have you stopped taking them? I stopped. I got the first two COVID vaccinations, and that was a personal choice. It was as I encouraged you at the time, I wasn't criticizing anybody. Get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine, have a conversation with your doctor, and you make a decision that works for you, right? That's what those are the conversations you and I had at the time, was have a conversation with your doctor. You make a decision works best for you. The government mandates, that was something different. I always thought it should be an individual choice. But if you had it to do over again, would you even get the vaccine? Because they got the first two and then I stopped. And one of the last times I was in with my family physician, he and I were talking about it. And he said, do you want one? And I'm like, no. Honestly, I do not. And he said, I'm not getting it either. He said, he mentioned to me, he said, no, I made a decision, I'm not getting it either. So I said, I've had two. I'm not, if I had it to do over again, I don't think I would get those. If I had it to do over again. So what about you? And again, for those of us who got the vaccine, some have been, all along have been saying no to vaccines at the risk of even losing their jobs. You know, people just refuse to get the vaccine. So we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later in the program this morning. So let's get into the comments by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She refused to refer to Dr. Fauci as doctor. He was Mr. Fauci. And she said, do you, I'm not sure what she was saying. She was asking him, do you think that's appropriate? Not sure what she was referring to there. She says, do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not a doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes, she said. No, I don't need your answer. And then, why are you talking then? So the Democrats quickly objected, saying, just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor? That was Representative Jamie Raskin. Not a fan of Representative Raskin, but he's got a point. And Greene answered that question. She said, yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked. He belongs in jail. So then at that point, you had the chair of, he was the chairman of the committee at the Representative Brad Wenstrup, who went, told Representative Greene, he said, the gentlelady will suspend, and instructed her to recognize Fauci as a doctor. And there were others then saying it was completely unacceptable then to deny that Fauci is a doctor. And this is one of the problems I have with the Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. When everything goes off the rails, you know, she opens her mouth and everything goes right off the rails. Not always, but often. Whenever there's cameras, unfortunately, in a setting like this, didn't you tell I'm not a fan? So she went on to say that, talking about the lockdowns, she said the Democrats are responsible for the lockdowns, forced vaccinations, kids being forced to stay home, people committing suicide, and all the horrors that this country lived through during COVID. So this is what she said after the hearing. She told the media. And then she said again, Fauci belongs in prison. He should be tried for mass murder and crimes against humanity. That's how I feel after that hearing. That's how the American people feel. So there's some truth to what she's saying there about Dr. Fauci, and just the way she goes about it's always a little bit. Now, that's a big story this morning. Also, Hunter Biden, the jury now was seated yesterday in the Hunter Biden trial. So panelists were questioned on their thoughts about gun rights, drug addictions. And so the jury was chosen. Opening statements then will begin today. So the Hunter Biden trial, opening statements today. 6 men, 6 women were chosen yesterday. 4 women will serve as alternates. And they were instructed by the judge, just the normal things you would expect, not to talk about or read about the case. Don't want to be out there running their mouths. So Hunter Biden Fox News has got a piece this morning running down the things that you should know. Hunter Biden would be facing potentially up to 25 years in prison. The question of Hunter Biden's drug addiction will be a big one, because his defense will be relying on that very heavily. Was he addicted to drugs at the time that, these things took place? The judge also warned prosecutors that they cannot use salacious evidence in the proceedings, including references to his U.S. Navy discharge and the child support case for he's got a daughter out of wedlock in Arkansas. Can't use that in Hunter Biden's case. So that's a big story also this morning. Get you more details on that from Fox News Radio coming up. This is incredible to me. It's a story this morning from Fox News. .com, and this piece is one of the top stories this morning at foxnews.com. Some former never Trump voters now say they're backing Donald Trump, baby. And this is based on interviews done by the Free Press. And they talked with a number of voters from across the country whose opinions were significantly impacted by the guilty verdict in the New York trial against Trump. And one of them is a venture capitalist who is based in Los Angeles by the name of Sean McGuire. He donated to the Hillary Clinton campaign when she ran against Trump. And he declared on social media that he had donated $300,000 to the Trump campaign within an hour of the verdict. And he told the Free Press, he said, "We were told that Donald Trump would be the end of democracy, but it turns out that lawfare tactics have been escalated by the Democrats and not by the Republicans." And so it's from that backdrop that I believe the Republican Party is less of a danger to democracy than the Democratic Party right now. So here you've got a previous Hillary Clinton donor, Democrat, and giving money to Donald Trump. And he said, he actually wrote an essay about this and said the double standards and lawfare that Trump has faced boiled my blood, he said. Now, what I find so incredibly remarkable here is that this is somebody who is, a Democrat, is given to Democrats previously and is angry beyond belief at what's going on with Donald Trump. And he's one then of a number of voters that the Free Press talked to saying that that is the case. This Fox News story says several voters tell the Free Press, and by the way, I looked for this story and I couldn't find it. I did do a search for it, but I couldn't find the initial story. And maybe that was just because I'm running against the clock every morning. Every morning as I'm getting the show ready, it's just a battle with the clock. So, but I didn't find additional details. But Fox News says several voters tell the Free Press the recent conviction of Trump are motivating them to support him over Joe Biden in the upcoming election. And then they quote another who is a University of Chicago law school lecturer. He donated $3,300 to the Trump campaign. He didn't vote in 2020. He opposed Trump in the 2016 election. And he said he's hoping that, he told the Free Press, he says, what's gotten me off the sidelines is that if Trump does not win, and by a rather sizable margin, that will validate this type of weaponization of the judicial system in the future. Before I would have said it's not a danger to America if Joe Biden wins the election. Now I kind of think it is. So now keep in mind, these are people who have previously voted against Donald Trump. They voted for Democrats. Right now, they are viewing Joe Biden and the Democrat Party as the bigger threat than Donald Trump. Wow. That's a seismic shift that we are seeing. And this is where I think the effects of this, Democrats just had blood fever and, they are just going to get a Trump conviction. And I think this certainly points to the fact that there's going to be hell to pay for that decision to pursue Trump. And this goes on. And it's a woman from New Jersey who's a marketing consultant. She described herself as a lifelong Democrat. She began turning against her party while living in New York City following the COVID lockdowns, like we were just talking about. And then she voted Republican for the first time in the 2021 mayoral race. She supported Lee Zeldin in his bid to be New York governor, which unfortunately he lost to Kathy Hochul. And she had previously supported Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but now the conviction of Trump, she said, I'm no fan of Trump. That said, I have a huge problem with contorting the law or using prosecutory authority in the name of saving democracy, which has been the Democrats' message for the past 4 years. I still consider myself a liberal. I just don't think Biden Democrats reflect what that used to mean. I think that woman is spot on. I think she is absolutely spot on. And it's one of the reasons, as we talk about, that I rely so heavily on legal commentary from Jonathan Turley, Alan Dershowitz. They're both Democrats. And they have been incredibly outspoken. They're not fans of Donald Trump. Jonathan Turley especially, he's not a big Donald Trump supporter. These guys are Democrats. But what they see happening with the weaponization of the justice system against Donald Trump, this is just a huge story and again, it's a headliner this morning at foxnews.com. So as we talk about Trump, this is one of the reasons that Trump's now campaign, we're learning, the Trump campaign raised $141 million in May. Incredible. The campaign announced this. The Trump raised, in addition to that, this was they reported this to the Republican National Committee yesterday. Other organizations supporting Trump raised another $150 million, bringing the total haul in May to nearly $300 million for Donald Trump. Boy, the needle has been moved, I think, based on, these comments of these Democrats, the monies that are being raised. Just really incredible. I asked a question on Facebook the other day. And I said, other than politics, what is something that really right now has got your goat? I mean, what are you, and what are you concerned about? What are the big things on your mind? And I got a lot of different reactions from folks, but overall, the one consistent reaction that I heard from a number of people, inflation. What's going on with inflation? Some of it was, I'll give you an example. Stephanie said, literally everything is exorbitantly expensive now. The cost of living is just insane. Real estate, gas, food, insurance, both health and auto. And on top of all that, the government at every level wants more in taxes, she said. But inflation really getting people's goat. So we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. That's all coming up today on the Greg Belfrage Show. Thanks so much for being here. Sunshine at 72, 627, and you're listening to Kello.
It's 5 to 8. Kello.
Okay, that's the first segment. Got a news and information update coming up here. I have liners and paid commercials. That's what you see me reaching back here, grabbing for.
Grain Insight is an algorithm-based managed bushel service to help farmers level the playing field. Grain Insight is designed at managing risk to take the emotion out of grain marketing. Text GRAIN at 605-291-1020 for more information. Grain futures adoption involves transfers of loss and is not suitable for
Okay, now those are the big stories this morning, and I'll build on those as the show goes on throughout the course of the morning. Again, I only do the video show for the first hour of the program. The remainder is available. You can stream the show at KELO.com if you're interested.
Guaranteed by our Constitution, including the Second Amendment. I'm asking for your vote on June 4th. I'm John Hughes, and I approve this message.
Paid for by John Hughes for District 13.
And please, if you are appreciating what we're doing, give us a like. It's really, really important. Helps others find it. Mention it to friends. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Excuse me. I cough a lot in the morning. My medications do that. My blood pressure meds. Who would have thought me with high blood pressure?
Download the app right now. Use the code ROAM for a first deposit match of up to $100. More, pick less. It's that easy. You have to be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Good morning. Showers and thunderstorms will be on the increase across the region, especially ahead of the afternoon. Most of that will be east of Sioux Falls, and a high temperature at 78. The winds turning around to the west at 15 to 25. Rain chances will wrap up this evening. Our low temperature 50. Tomorrow windy and a high around 80.
And currently in Sioux Falls, we've got sunshine. 72 right now at Kello. Joe Bowman's in the Kello.com News Center, and among stories that Joe is following for us this morning, body of a missing Yankton woman has been found. She went swimming in the Missouri River and was found on the shore. Also, a Sioux Falls teenager hospitalized after being shot yesterday. Joe will have details on those stories and more for you coming up. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. So just ahead, we'll run down stories that are trending this morning. Dr. Fauci in front of Congress. That's a big story. We'll talk about that in more detail coming up a little later. You're listening to Kello.
Take executive action on the border. The White House has yet to publicly confirm their plans, but several reports, including from the Associated Press, say this executive order would shut down asylum requests between ports of entry once illegal border crossings hit 2,500. The border would only reopen once this number drops to 1,500. That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. Opening statements begin at 9 a.m. Eastern in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial.
Special counsel David Weiss is going to go first here, the prosecution's team. Then it's Hunter Biden's lawyers, likely lead defense attorney Abby Lowell. 45 minutes aside is what we're thinking they'll get. Hunter faces 3 felonies in connection with a 2018 gun purchase.
That's Fox's Rich Edson. America's listening to Fox News.
News brought to you by Sioux Falls Implant and Sedation Dentistry. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
All right, I'll sort out our trending stories this morning. I just...
News Center. The body of a missing Yankton man has been found. Philip Snoosey has been missing since May 24th after going swimming in the Missouri River. Officials say a boater spotted a body on the shoreline about a quarter-mile east of the James River on Sunday. The cause of the death is still under investigation. A Sioux Falls teenager is hospitalized after being shot yesterday. Police say the boy went...
Isn't it amazing? Bob Menendez is going to file as an independent candidate in the New Jersey race. Just amazing how some people, despite, his party turning on him, Democrats will have nothing to do with him. And just cannot let go of politics. It's incredible to me. President will be making a statement today on he's getting tough on the border. Gonna crack down on the border. Yeah, right.
Obviously, the clearance for the lines hasn't changed. Power company equipment isn't the only thing at risk. We'll hear more about that next hour. And South Dakota primary election day is here. Voters will decide on which candidates will represent them on the November election ballot.
How closely do you follow Alex Jones and InfoWars? How familiar are you with him? So he's been in the news for quite a while, and he was on InfoWars over the weekend saying that they're going to shut him down, and he was in tears. I mean, I understand. Well, a judge has not allowed them to move forward. So he will remain on InfoWars for the time being.
Your source for the latest news all day, every day. Wake up with us and check back all day long. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
What I'm going to say about hospital ransomware attacks is going to make some of you very angry, but it will save lives. I give commandos for LinkedIn jobs. Post a job for free and find qualified candidates quickly at linkedin.com/candidate. When a hospital is hit with a ransomware attack, patient records are frozen. Treatments are
so the
staff plummets into chaos.
executive editor of the Washington Post stepped down. I saw that yesterday. That story was trending. The rest of the story is the audience of the Washington Post has been cut in half. That paper, like many newspapers, losing money hand over fist. Millions of dollars that the Washington Post is losing every year. So again, I'm trying to sort these out in by level, interest level.
That's why I use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right people for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. You get access to LinkedIn's vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, many of whom you won't find anywhere else. That's why it's simply the best place.
Kanye West is also back in the news. Yeah, he's turning out to be dumber than I even thought.
In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that as a small business, you might not have the time or resources to spend on
But Major League Baseball's got another betting scandal. That's always sad to me.
Post your job for free at linkedin.com/kid. That's linkedin.com/kid to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. That's linkedin.com/kid.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Hi, I'm Allie Gabriel, a working mom with 3 public school daughters. 3 years ago, my family chose to move from Minnesota to South Dakota. The reason? We wanted quality, common sense leadership. That's why I'm supporting Dean Karski and Dan Kipling for Minnehaha County Commission. They're well-informed, well-intentioned, and their conservative values align with mine. Please vote for Dean Karski and Dan Kipling for Minnehaha County Commission on June 4th.
EXT marketing is your team. You want a good quality.
There we go.
Not a high price tag. Okay. Visit extmarketing.com to get a free quote today.
World offers free estimates on a full line of vinyl windows, vinyl siding, and roof replacement. Window World, be the one call for spring exterior home projects.
All right.
I'm John Hughes, a Republican running for District 13 House. For more than 30 years, I've been an attorney and small business owner in Sioux Falls. As your state representative,
69
I
this
fight
hour.
property taxes, reduce crime, and make sure we have a safe, thriving community to lead to the next generation. I will support and defend all individual rights guaranteed by our Constitution, including the Second Amendment. I'm asking for your vote on June 4th. I'm John Hughes, and I approve.
Okay.
Paid for by John Hughes for District 13.
And if you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot, it's in honor of that flag and what it stands for that Pure Talk is now supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. As a vet, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially in this economy. Access to housing, employment, even getting their earned VA benefits can be really hard. That's where America's Warrior Partnership steps in. They provide fundamental needs to our warriors. They can help this great cause.
I also have a, see my eyes shifting around. We've got a big monitor up so I can keep an eye on Fox News if there are big stories. Something's happening over the course of the morning. I want to be able to point that out.
Customer service team will help you make the switch. Just dial pound 250 and save now for superior cell phone service.
All right,
It's
here we
half the
go.
price of Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and you get the help of vet in need.
Turn your workstation into South Dakota's most entertaining radio station.
And again, these stories I'll be sharing right now, these are stories that are actually trending this morning.
You'll get entertaining talk.
Not necessarily choosing
It'll
them
help you get caught up at work.
because they're
1320, 107.9.
of the greatest interest, but they're trending. 6:39, mostly cloudy, or excuse me, it's mostly clear. Sunshine. And 69 right now at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that.
President Biden released a statement yesterday in support of his son, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden's is, as you know, standing trial on gun charges. And so the jury has been selected and opening arguments begin today. But the president released a statement yesterday saying, I am the president, but I'm also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today. Hunter's resilience in the face of adversity and the strength he's brought to his recovery are inspiring to us. A lot of families have loved ones who have overcome addiction and know what we mean. As the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases, but as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength. Our family has been through a lot together, and Jill and I are going to continue to be there for Hunter and our family with our love and support. And in fact, Dr. Jill Biden was there in court alongside her son yesterday. Now, the president officially, the White House telling lawmakers the president will sign off on an executive order today. He's expected to do this today, that would shut down asylum requests at the U.S.-Mexico border. Once the average number of daily encounters hits 2,500, why is he not just doing it? Why is it, so this is pure. Now understand what's happening here. This is purely a political move. Once the number hits 2,500, then we're going to be able to, react. And no, this is purely political. It's designed to have an effect on the election. That's what he's doing. So this illegal border crossing crackdown and the announcement that he's doing, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense. It's political theater designed to get votes. That's all it is. Marjorie Taylor Greene told Dr. Anthony Fauci yesterday he was not a doctor and that he belonged in prison, Representative Greene said during a he was in front of a House committee yesterday, and this is interesting. It's a piece by the Daily Mail. Nowhere does it say Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're not using her title at all in the piece. See, it's interesting when you take a look at these, take a look at the news, and it's like, now she's a representative of the United States. I'm not a big fan of hers, as I've told you. Wouldn't you include that word, representative? Also, the Washington Post said over the weekend that its executive editor, Sally Busby, has stepped down. She has been the executive editor for 3 years. She will be replaced by several people. So it takes 2 men to replace 1 woman. Guys, chew on that today. There's a much more meaningful piece at the Post Millennial about the Washington Post. And this piece says, the Washington Post is in trouble. According to a new report out from Vanity Fair, the weekend kerfuffle that saw the departure of Sally Busby was only compounded yesterday when staff gathered for a meeting only to find that she'd been replaced by 2 white men. So one person is leaving and being replaced by 2. That running by committee, that's just a bad idea. That is not, I just don't think that's the Washington Post is not on, that's not on the upward, slope here. Also, the New York Stock Exchange had a technical error. They had to stop trading yesterday morning. And the investors and regulators had been on alert then for trade failures and other issues then after exchange operators had they'd switched to a one-day settlement. And there was some issues. And the stock exchange said yesterday morning it was investigating a reported technical issue. Also, Donald Trump, and I shared this story with you yesterday. I thought it was a big story yesterday. Donald Trump calling on the U.S. Supreme Court to decide his case, calling on the United States Supreme Court must decide, Trump saying. Alex Jones. For those of you who follow Alex Jones and InfoWars, he said he did a broadcast on Saturday saying that he was prepared to be shut down. And he even said, this is going to be InfoWars' last show, because I learned yesterday that they were going to padlock the door and kick us out, he said. So he stayed in the studio. So that it slept there so that it could not be, he didn't want to leave and then come back to find it padlocked. And so this is what he was saying then on Saturday, and he did his show. He ended it as if that was it, that he would not be back. So a judge yesterday allowed Jones to keep operating for the next 2 weeks while it's decided whether his assets should be liquidated. Now, keep in mind, he has been sued by the families at Sandy Hook over comments that he made about the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. He said that the whole thing was actually these were paid actors. And the whole thing was, that's what Jones said. And that's why he is just facing incredible judgments. But the judge saying yesterday, Jones can keep operating for the next 2 weeks while they make a decision as to what to do with his assets. Also, this story comes from Minneapolis. A Hennepin County attorney has announced the dismissal of charges against a Minnesota State Trooper, Ryan Lundgren, in the shooting death of Ricky Cobb last summer. So according to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, defense lawyers presented several new pieces of evidence that would make it impossible for Minnesota to prove that Lundgren's actions were not an authorized use of force by a police officer. And so the charges against Trooper Ryan Lundgren have been dismissed. Major League Baseball's got another betting scandal. He's an infielder for the San Diego Padres, Tucupita Marcano, facing now a potential lifetime ban for betting on baseball. Big no-no. Dallas Cowboys yesterday announced the death of Hall of Fame offensive lineman Larry Allen. He was 52 years old. And the Cowboys said they were saddened to share the news. He's a Super Bowl champion, Cowboys Ring of Honor member, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Say Larry Allen passed away suddenly while on vacation in Mexico with his family. The team announced it yesterday. And they said of Allen that Larry was known for his great athleticism and incredible strength. He was one of the most respected, accomplished offensive linemen to ever play in the NFL. And they said his versatility and dependability were also signature parts of his career, as well as being an inspiration for a number of others, said the Dallas Cowboys. Also, Simone Biles has won her record 9th all-around national title on Sunday night. And so her lead at the U.S. Championships has been pretty massive. So she won her 9th all-around national title on Sunday. Also, a suspect accused of shooting and wounding 2 New York City Police Department officers was, authorities confirmed, he's in the country illegally. A 19-year-old Venezuelan is believed to have shot the officers a couple of days ago then, and authorities believe he is not in the country legally. Mr. Beast has been in the news. Mr. Beast is known to a number of YouTubers. He has overtaken T-Series as the biggest YouTube channel. Been a long-running battle then for most subscribers. And if you've never heard of T-Series, it's an Indian music label. They upload trailers, music videos, that kind of thing. And Jimmy Donaldson now, who is Mr. Beast, he was already the individual with the largest following. Now he has overtaken T-Series as the biggest YouTube channel. The Israeli Defense Forces announced yesterday they confirmed the deaths of 4 more Israeli hostages who are in captivity of Hamas. And the IDF said in a briefing yesterday that they said, we estimate the 4 were killed together in the Han Yunis area several months ago while being held by Hamas terrorists and while IDF forces were operating in Han Yunis. So they released the names and ages of the men there. Most of them are right near 80 years old. The youngest was 51, and the others were 79, 80, and 84 years old. Kanye West is being sued for sexual harassment by his former assistant. He's then accused of sexual harassment, wrongful termination, breach of contract, and a hostile workplace in the lawsuit. And she claims that West had watched porn while holding meetings. Crazy. The alert level of a volcano in Hawaii has been raised. The volcano's not erupting, but there has been increased earthquake activity, ground deformation. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, and what it suggests then is that magma is moving just below the surface. So the alert level being raised, there may be a volcanic eruption. Longtime U.S. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has announced that she's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She's undergoing treatment for that. Jackson Lee is 74 years old. She's a Democrat from Texas. And she said in a statement over the weekend that she said, I'm confident that my doctors have developed the best possible plan to target my specific disease. The road ahead will not be easy, but I stand in faith that God will strengthen me. And finally, this morning, Senator Bob Menendez is expected to file as an independent in New Jersey, according to a couple of sources. This is after the Democrats literally threw him out. Menendez is facing federal corruption charges, currently on trial in New York City. and he announced that he would not run then as a Democrat, but he left open the possibility of an independent bid, and that is apparently what he is pursuing. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 5 minutes before 7. It's mostly clear in 69. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
And a cell phone to make your mark. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
Hey kids, what are you getting your ever-loving dad for Father's Day?
I know, a motorized monster truck. How about the new Taylor Swift album?
I love your emails. You can email me anytime. Thanks so much for following this morning. But my email address is greg.belfrage@kelo.com. So that's greg.belfrage@kelo.com. Thank you so much for being here today. Hope to see you again tomorrow. So long until then, and may God bless.
Gabriel, a working mom with 3 public school daughters. 3 years ago, my family chose to move from Minnesota to South Dakota.